Welcome to Magus in the Media, where myth, magic, and meaning meet the stories we love. Here, fantasy becomes philosophy, and modern storytelling hides echoes of the ancient mysteries. Today, we return to Lord of the Mysteries, Episode 3, an initiation wrapped in shadows, sealed artifacts, and secret orders. Klein takes his first mission as a Nighthawk, his first true mission. Not just this Peasley running off to capture somebody, but we're truly trying to find the Antigonus notebook, and we have our first few leads. What seems like a simple recovery quickly turns into an initiation, a confrontation with artifacts that warp the mind, bloodlines corrupted by hidden power, and enemies who mirror the trickster archetypes of old initiation trials. At the center of it all is the Antigonus notebook, a living relic of a family we know very little of. The Antigonus epoch doesn't stand alone. It reflects the ceremonial lodges and esoteric circles of the early 20th century, the syncretic mysteries of the Hellenistic world, and even the Solomonic traditions where temple, throne, and spirit were bound in sacred seal and wisdom. The Antigonus notebook, a grimoire from the fourth epoch that destabilizes reality itself. It doesn't just contain knowledge, it radiates it in ways that break sanity as much as it reveals truth. This is where Lord of Mysteries shows its hand. The notebook is a modern reflection of the Book of Thoth, the Emerald Tablets, the Necronomicon, the Picatrix, and other legendary texts said to hold wisdom too dangerous for the uninitiated. And in this episode, all of it converges. Artifacts that ensnare the mind, bloodlines twisted by occult inheritance, secret orders moving in the shadows, and Klein himself, caught between sanity and revelation, learning for the first time what the gray fog truly can do for him. Among the remnants of the Antigonus Legacy is sealed artifact 2049, a puppet. At first glance, it seems harmless, a child's toy, but once opened from its suitcase, its hidden force emerges. Perception itself is distorted, identities blur, judgment collapses, and those caught within its influences lose their grip on reality. The effect, it can be overwhelming. In some cases, the disorientation is so severe it renders the victim unconscious, or worse. Though even the church itself cannot say with certainty where its limits lie. What matters is that this puppet was created by the Antigonus family. Like their notebook, it bears their signature, artifacts that warp the mind, undermining clarity and order. This recalls the legend of Solomon's ring, the seal of kingship that gave him command over spirits and angels, binding them to his very will. Yet, when he faltered, the same ring became his very curse. What once established order opens the way to pure corruption. The Antigonus puppet stands in that same current, a royal artifact, so to speak, that tests those who face it. In form, a toy, a mere puppet. In essence, a crucible. Like the Ark of the Covenant or the alchemist's red stone, it distinguishes between vessels strong enough to hold divine force and those that shatter under its weight. That a family could create such an object reveals the nature of their dynasty. The Antigonuses may be that they were not merely rulers by bloodline. Their kingship, so to speak, was expressed through artifacts, objects infused with magical authority. Yet, what remains are fragments, seals of power that no longer uphold order, but hang over the world as the broken inheritance of a fallen house. The puppet belongs to this legacy, yes, harmless in form, destructive in essence. It is kingship expressed through artifact. Like Solomon's ring, it was once a seal of authority, but in its fallen state, it tests rather than governs. It reveals whether a vessel can withstand divine weight or collapse beneath it. That the Antigonuses could create such an object tells us what kind of dynasty they truly were. Rulers who bound their sovereignty into relics. But where relics remain, bloodlines remain, and bloodlines can corrode. As the Nighthawks release this puppet, the room changes. They bring it out, not as a weapon, but as necessity. For Klein to perform his divination and trace the Antigonus notebook, puppet and notebook are bound by the same lineage, both carrying the Antigonus mark. And only by invoking one can the other be revealed. But the artifact is very treacherous. The Nighthawks have to move in strange ways, almost ritualistic. Subtle shifts, small motions, just to keep its influence at bay. Without these deliberate gestures, the puppet's distortion would seize them, identities blurring, perceptions breaking down, judgments collapsing. And still, even restrained, the puppet tries to lash out. Its gaze fixes on Klein. For a moment, it feels as though reality itself bends towards him. The others can only watch as he steadies himself and begins the rite. Klein performs his divination. Divination, walking staff in hand, acting as dowsing rod, consciousness reaching beyond the visible world. This is the moment where everything accelerates. The connection is made, and the trial is opened. Here, we cut away to the notebook itself, not locked in a vault like it should be, or in a hand of a great mage, not resting in safety, but in the hands of the mere Ray Bieber. And with that, we're off to the races. And so the trial leads not just to the notebook, but to the faint blood of Antigonus that lingers still in this world. The Antigonus' legacy is not only preserved in relics, it lingers in blood. Ray Bieber, a descendant of the family, shows what happens when that inheritance collides with unprepared flesh. Through contact with the notebook, Bieber's body and mind warps. He becomes not a hire, but a cautionary tale. That lineal echo of kingship is merely undone. The parallel to alchemy is precise. When a vessel cannot contain the fire of transformation, it cracks and explodes. Bieber is the broken alembic, destroyed by forces his blood remembers but cannot hold. And here another thread enters. The secret order. Briefly mentioned, this society is tied to Antigonus relics and the mysteries of the Fourth Epoch. It stands as a hidden fraternity, much like what we have in our own history, a reflection of real-world orders like the Rosicrucians, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, the Knights Templar, and Freemasons. Societies that claim to preserve fragments of forgotten wisdom, bound by secrecy and symbol. Within this story, the Secret Order represents continuity, the idea that power does not disappear when dynasties fall. It moves underground, carried in cryptic rituals, bloodlines, and relics. Placed beside the image of Solomon, the analogy deepens. If the puppet and the notebook are fragments of the Antigonus' so-called ring, then Ray Bieber is the hire who cannot bear it. Like Solomon in his downfall, he shows how misalignment with sacred power twists wisdom into corruption. But unlike Solomon, Bieber has no temple, no kingdom, only the ruins of an inheritance that consumes him from within. The Antigonus bloodline, once royal, it seems, now breeds corruption instead of kingship, and the Secret Order waits, its role truly unclear, preserving what pieces of that power it can. And again, in this episode, there seems to be a hidden agenda in the background. The trial leads to Ray Bieber, not a chosen hire of the Antigonus line, like I've said, but a distant branch warped by contact with this forbidden notebook. His body channels its influence like a cracked vessel, strength surging, violent but unstable, a man transfigured into a warning. The Nighthawks arrive, blades and firearms drawn, invocation ringing out like liturgy. Each cry is more than a demand for power. It is an oath, binding them to higher order against corruption. Together they move as one, their training a rhythm of ritual combat designed for the uncanny. Bieber's frenzy is untempered, this monster raging about. His blows split stone, his voice snarls with madness, his corrupted body resisting suppression. It is the very picture of what happens when divine fire pours into an unready vessel. At last, Dali steps forward. She channels nether hands, shadowy, deathly arms reaching from her body like emissaries of the underworld, seizing Bieber and dragging him at both body and spirit. For a moment, the corruption buckles under her grasp. Then the backlash comes. Bieber detonates in violent release. The blast knocks Dali into its heart, grievously wounding her. The others rush to her side, forcing down an alchemical healing potion, enough to keep her alive, but not restore her strength. It seems the fight is finished. Bieber is dead, his corruption spent. But this was only the first act. The clown enters the stage. Before the Nighthawks can breathe, the true threat arrives. From the shadows steps the figure Klein once glimpsed on the road while carrying bread, just before entering the fortune teller's tent. That chance sighting was no mere accident. It was foreshadowing, a subtle initiation into the larger struggle. The clown is revealed in full at the end of the episode. It's a sequence 7 of the Seer Path and a sworn member of the Secret Order. The society bound to Antigonus relics. Where Bieber was brute corruption, the clown is calculation and theater. His power is not raw strength, it is distortion. illusions which bend sight and sound until allies strike at phantoms, emotional distortions, hysteria or despair where there should be resolve, laughter where there should be fear. Damage, transfer. When struck, his injuries slip to trivial flesh, leaving vital points untouched. He fights like a performer in perfect command of his stage. Every movement exaggerated, every strike a misdirection. Where Klein is tentative, the clown is theatrical, weaponizing balance, timing, and expression to dominate perception itself. The clown is not a prophet, but a performer. He doesn't reveal truth, he destabilizes it. His masks, gestures, and manipulations erode certainty, turning the battlefield into a stage where nothing feels solid. And he has not yet revealed his deadliest trick yet. In the midst of combat, the clown releases the Antigonus family's sealed artifact, the puppet. This is no mere weapon. The puppet is a living relic of the Antigonus line, a construct that warps perception and turns the battlefield into a stage. The moment it awakens, invisible strings snap into place, shooting across the air and fastening to everybody present. The Nighthawks stiffen, their motions hijacked. The room becomes grotesque, a puppet show. One by one, Klein's allies are captured, their free will severed. The clown looks on with smug certainty, believing he now holds absolute dominion through the artifact. But this is the moment where Klein acts differently from everyone else. Instead of resisting the strings directly, he lets go. Consciousness drops inward. He recites the invocation to enter into the gray fog. As he slips into the gray fog, that hidden sanctuary beyond the reach of ordinary forces. The stillness here is absolute. Outside, seconds bleed away as the cords tightened around his allies, lives dangling on the edge of collapse. Inside, Klein steadies himself and takes up the topaz pendant. A seer does not plead with fear. A seer declares the access and tests it. It is safe for me to return. When I go back, the puppet will not control me. The words hang in the gray void like anchors driven into abyssal silence. The answers come back favorable. The access holds. The fog is not escape, it is sovereignty. It is his will be done. He speaks into the void, and it responds. The throne room of the seer. Here Klein reestablishes himself, anchoring clarity before stepping back into the storm. And within this stillness, he glimpses the clown's deeper aim. The puppet is not merely a weapon, it is a snare. The plan is to bind every soul present, subjugating Nighthawks and Relic alike to the Secret Order's dominion. The stakes rise. There is no longer a skirmish. It is an initiation by ordeal, a crucible that will either break Klein or set him apart. He opens his eyes. The cords are still there, lashing at everyone, pulling the Nighthawks taut, but none cling to him. Klein stands free. The tide has turned. And yet the clown doesn't realize Klein is free. Reading the room as absolute dominion, he bargains. He allows Klein to move if Klein yields. He sweetens the trap with forbidden knowledge. Leaning close, he whispers the name of the next sequence on Klein's path. Clown. It's a classic initiatory temptation. Advancement offered rather than earned. Knowledge dangled as leverage. The clown thinks he's closing a deal. He actually reveals his hand. And yet in the background, for some reason, a quiet anomaly holds. Leonard Mitchell, for reasons unrevealed here, isn't on the strings either. We have no idea why. The clown's certainty rests on a misread board. For some reason, Leonard sees everything happen. He knows Klein also isn't attached. And at the end of the bargain, the clown extends his walking cane like a spear, a final flourish to pierce a helpless target. Klein moves. He grabs the cane, shocking the clown, who now realizes too little that his control is already broken. Klein yanks the clown off balance and drives him towards the puppet's control zone with a few shots from his gun. The clown staggers, still certain he commands the field until the artifact string latches onto him. It took me a few times. I had to actually go back and replay that multiple times, trying to figure out why did the clown get captured. And that was just it. It was really well done and it happened really fast. But that's exactly what happened. There was an area in the field where the puppet had control of everybody, and the clown was always on the outskirts of that field. Losing his awareness, Klein, throws him into that, and that's what latches on. So again, took me a little bit, but I figured it out. A tear becomes the puppet, fires at the clown, right through the throat. The painted grin collapses in a wet gasp, but the body twitches, refusing to fall. Klein fires again, straight through the head. Clean, decisive shot. The strings across the room slacken and fall. The Nighthawks sag back into themselves. Breath returns to their bodies. that were not their own a moment earlier. For one terrible beat, the clown corpse lurches upright as everyone thinks everything is safe, and this voice from the clown grinding like a ventriloquist doll. One word drops again and again, heavy as an omen. Hornacis, Hornacis, Hornacis. Then the body falls. Silence. Except for the Nighthawk's breathing. Now, in an occult read, let's look at this. The strings, coercive fate. The kleptotic imitation of order, binding without balance. The gray fog, it's an inner temple, place of a crossings where compulsion breaks and will recenters. The topaz divination pendant, the seer's protocol, the states the access verifies it, acts from it. The bargain, it's an initiatory trap. Knowledge without purification, and then the reversal. Natural counter magic, the operator caught in his own mechanism. The fight leaves its mark. Baber's corpse reduced to nothing by Dally's nether hands. The Nighthawk's barely standing. The clown struck down by Klein's quick thinking, and the turning of the puppet strings back against its master lies dead at last. But the echoes of what has happened do not vanish with the silence. The Antigonus notebook, still radiating danger, is then locked away within the Chanis Gate, the mysterious seal beneath the Tingen Cathedral, a prison said to hold unspeakable things, guarded by layers of ritual and secrecy. But here is where we glimpse the truth, that this city's foundation rests upon chains. The very earth of Tingen trembles with what it holds. And now, one of the most perilous artifacts in existence has been added to those depths. The resemblance to the grimoires and bindings of old, Solomon sealing gin in brass vessels, or priests locking divine fire into temple vaults. It's not an accident. Civilization has always advanced by suppressing what it cannot destroy. After the chaos settles, Klein takes the questions that he has still burning in his mind. The repeated cry of Hornacis. To the one figure in his life who might know more, he goes to Professor Azek. Not because Azek was present in the fight, but because he has always carried that quiet, unsettling weight of hidden knowledge. Azek listens as Klein talks to him, but here's where we see his limits, or at least what he's willing to share. Or at least what he thinks he knows. He doesn't know of the Antigonus family directly, nor can he explain the so-called nation of Evernight. What he can do is point out that the words themselves carry older roots, linguistic echoes, that may connect to things buried in history. That alone is telling. Azek frames himself not as the keeper of all answers, but as a guide who can show Klein where the shadows deepen. This is why Azek resonates so strongly as a psychopomp figure, the Hermes or the Anubis of Klein's journey. He's not leading Klein to glory or to certainty. He's leading him to thresholds. His calm presence hides the fact that he is marked by death, by burial, by forces not yet revealed. And that contrast, his helpful mentorship against his aura of strangeness, reminds us that allies and esoteric journeys are rarely simple. They unsettle even as they assist, and then we return to the clown's final words. Hornacis, Hornacis, Hornacis. Once dismissed as madness, they now crystallize into direction. The Hornacis Mountains, a desolate range tied to forgotten ruins and whispered stories of who may be the Evernight goddess. This is where geography and mythology fuse, the axis mundi of the setting, a place where earth and divinity overlap, where this tale stretches beyond Tingen into something continental. What begins as a mission for a single notebook has opened the gates into something far larger. A living artifact, a corrupted hair, a secret society's seer, and now the suggestion of thrones, cults, and powers older than the present age. Step by step, Lord of Mysteries is moving from the intimate streets of Tingen to the mythic landscapes where gods once walked. This is the pivotal point of the story, the notebook, the puppet, the clown, and the whispered names of Hornacis. All of it was more than just spectacle. It was initiation. Klein has crossed a threshold, and so have we as viewers. The world is open, the curtain is lifting, and behind it we glimpse something vast. Myth disguised as mystery, theology disguised as sorcery, and history disguised as rumor. That's the brilliance of Lord of Mysteries. It doesn't just tell a tale of monsters and hunters. It pulls us into the mechanics of initiation itself. The way names conceal worlds, the way artifacts bend fate, the way every shadow might contain a god or a nightmare. And this is what we explore here at Magus in the Media. The mythic, the occult, the esoteric heartbeat hiding in our stories. If you felt the resonance, if you caught the current running beneath the action, then you're walking the same path this channel is tracing. So let me leave you with this. The clown thought he was the puppeteer, but he too was being pulled by strings. The question is, whose hands are really moving them? And when Klein finally sees the strings stretching up into Hornacis' sky, what will be waiting at the other end? If that left you thinking, like, subscribe, and share this with someone else walking the path. That's how you help this channel grow and how more people find their way into the mysteries with us. Until next time, keep your eyes open, your mind sharp, and your spirit attuned to the mysteries, because this story is only beginning, and there is definitely more to come.